The Todd Shapiro Show. Canada Laughs, SiriusXM 168.
Oh, is Yeardley there?
I'm here.
Hi, Yeardley.
Are you talking about me?
We're just saying how awesome you are.
Oh, sure. I was just hearing you talk about somebody you didn't like who you had on the show.
No, one of my guests, Glenn Foster. My name's Todd Shapiro, by the way. I know you're doing
Hi,
a job.
Todd.
How are you? Wow, can you say that again? And I'm just going to stop talking.
Hi, Todd. It's Lisa Simpson. I'm so pleased to be on the show. Thanks for having me.
God, I'm so tripped out, dude. You know they just legalized pot in Canada. It's way too trippy to do that.
You can get that on a loop now.
I have a couple of great Canadian comedians here, Glenn Foster and Alex Wood. And Alex specifically is a massive Simpsons fan, so I had to bring him in. I asked Glenn just before he came on. I'm like, no, well, you know you. And then he's like, I'm kind of. He's like,
No, I said what I
okay.
meant to say was I said I'm not a massive fan, but what I meant to say was I'm not a nerd level fan. I can't quote things back. And,
That's good because
okay,
I can't either, actually.
But there's a few episodes that I really love, and the movie was fantastic.
Thank you.
And in fact, the movie amazed me because after so many plots, they were able to pull out a new one, and it was fantastic.
Yes, and I think it helped that we gave a nod right in the beginning saying, why would you pay for something that you can get for free?
Right, yes.
And that made everybody go, oh, now we're really happy to be here.
Yes.
This is awesome.
Yeah, it was great. Great from frame one.
Indeed. Thank you.
Yeardley, wow. And we'll talk about your podcast in a little bit, too, but while we're on The Simpsons, and you must get this question every 2 seconds from everybody, but 3 decades, 30 years. I mean, in your wildest imagination, when you first start this out and get the voice of Lisa Simpson, which is your voice, like it's just your voice. Which
yeah,
is
we're
awesome.
so close.
I mean, really, could you have fathomed this?
Oh, heck no. I just realized probably family show. I shouldn't cuss like a sailor like I usually do.
No, you can go all out on this program.
Oh, all out. Yeah. Make my mother proud. Actually, I didn't ever want to do voiceover. I had a very specific plan for world domination, and voiceover was not part of it. So I didn't have a voiceover agent when they were auditioning people for The Simpsons, and I actually had done a play in a shitty little black box theater here in Los Angeles, of which we have many, that I think, literally 17 people saw, and one of them a year later would cast The Simpsons on the Tracy Ullman Show, and she said right away, I know who should play Lisa Simpson. And I actually was brought in to read for Bart first. And then I just sound so much like a girl. There's no world where I ever sound like a boy. So they were like, no, that won't work. So I read for Lisa. But people, and Nancy Cartwright, who got the part of Bart, she was brought in to read for Lisa, and she actually said, because her whole background was voiceover, that she wanted to play Bart. But people are like, oh my God, so you were almost Bart. I'm like, no, you don't understand. They always have women do the voices of young boys. I literally think they just brought me in, threw a lot of spaghetti at the wall, and went, let's see what sticks. Okay, that didn't stick at all. Let's try something else. And it was a complete fluke. And I remember I had a callback, and I went in to read for Matt Groening, and he didn't laugh. When I did my callback, I was like, well, I guess I didn't get that job. But it didn't bother me that much, because I was like, I don't even fucking want to do voiceover, so who cares? And now, thank God, I was arrogant, but I was not stupid. So when they called and said, you got the job, I was like, hooray! The job is what? What are we doing? 'Cause we were doing the bumpers on the Tracy Ullman Show, where we did, I think it was 4 segments at 30 seconds apiece or something, 20 seconds apiece.
I was telling Todd I remember watching those with my dad.
Yeah.
And Glenn's an old guy.
I'm an old guy, that's right.
I'm old too, Glenn. I'm old too. And I play an 8-year-old who's 8. Every time she has a birthday, she turns 8, and we just don't talk about that.
I often behave like an 8-year-old.
So, Yeardley, it was fair to say it was just a gig for you at the beginning, right?
Yes, I mean, especially on the Tracy Ullman Show. And then we went to half hour, and because on the Tracy Ullman Show, Lisa really didn't have much of a personality. Bart was the star, and she was just the foil, really. She was just the bratty younger sister. And it wasn't until we went to half hour that James L. Brooks, our executive producer, decided he wanted her to be super smart, a prodigy, and also to play the saxophone and be super good at that. And that she would be the only one, should anybody ever get out of Springfield, Lisa would be the one you wanted to hitch your wagon to. And then that really opened up the world for Lisa Simpson. And then I started to get much more invested and go, this girl's cool. I like her. She's awesome. And now I honestly believe that she's one of the best, most multifaceted, interesting female characters in entertainment today, whether it's movies, film, or television, you know?
Yeah, the writers have always said Lisa's their favorite character. Just wanted to
That's
ask you...
because they're working out all their childhood issues through Lisa.
You hear that, Conan? Okay, I just made Lisa laugh. I can live.
It's Yeardley.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry I said that. I have a Simpsons tattoo. I got a lot of issues going on right now.
Do you have a Simpsons tattoo?
I do.
What is it of?
Lisa, for sure. Of course, that's Bart
No.
Simpson's face.
That's probably not true.
But I'm doing a whole mural. There will be several. I did want to ask you this. Was there a moment or an episode where you thought, okay, we might actually have something special here?
Yes. It was actually, there were two moments. And one of them was the very first half-hour episode to air was where the Simpsons get Santa's Little Helper. It's called Simpsons Roasting on an Open Fire. Mm-hmm. And it was a story that it was a cartoon, but it was character-driven. So, and that hadn't happened, if ever, certainly in a very long time. The last primetime cartoon to be on the air was The Flintstones, and that was many, many years before The Simpsons became a nighttime half-hour show. And so I remember thinking, oh, wow, this is different. This is elevated. And then in season 2, there was a great episode between Lisa and her substitute teacher called Lisa's Substitute,
I knew
where
you were
Dustin
say
Hoffman.
that episode.
You did. Well, and another one too, actually, which might have been season 1, was Moaning Lisa, where she meets Bleeding Gums Murphy for the first time. Those episodes, the fact that they were willing to take the time to write episodes that, again, were so character-driven and so full of heart and weren't necessarily going to rely on the antics that you could actually employ because we're animated, right, was like, okay, all right, we're doing something really, really extraordinary here.
Well, revolutionary, really. I mean, it is wild to think. And now that you say it, you're right. Like Lisa Simpson's character was, especially in this day and age now where obviously everyone, which should have been done for years and years and years, the Simpson ahead of the curve was fight for the equality in terms of like a strength of a female role. And that's been done for 3 decades in your particular program. Why the rest of the world just seems to be catching up with that now in the last couple of years is a shame, really. But yeah, it's really quite fantastic. I mean, to think of it that way. And not only that, the amount of jobs and employment that it gave for a ton of other voice actors and writers. And if you think of all the sort of the different now types of animated series, that really, if it made it work in The Simpsons in a more modernized age than The Flintstones, I mean, that spawned off. How many animated series are there now, do you think, Yeardley?
I know. About a gazillion. What do you think? Roughly, that's a technical term.
Prime time, though, that's the thing.
And prime time.
Yeah.
Right?
Do you hear often, where you'll meet a guy like Glenn Foster, who could be Alex Wood's dad, and was it's a fact. I'm not exaggerating things here. It's a compliment.
It's a compliment.
It's just
you could be Alex Wood's dad.
I mean, it's just based on sheer years.
I will say, if he was my dad, he ruined his high school experience. It's not like he chose to have me if he's my dad.
But I guess, Yeardley, I mean, it's because it's been 3 decades, it's a generational thing where you'll meet, an older dude or an older lady. It's like, I introduced my kid, and now even your kid can introduce a young. Like,
absolutely. I introduced my daughter to The Simpsons.
Yeah, and let me ask you, Glenn, quickly, how does that feel then?
That's great. It's one of the few shows we can watch together and enjoy together. She's 18 now, so it's a little.
We hear it a lot, and we actually have writers who write on the show now who grew up watching the show
Right,
and thought to themselves, my dream job will be to write on The Simpsons, but they won't still be on by the time I'm old enough. I'm like, oh, yes, we will. We will. And maybe now when your kids have kids, we will still be on.
You know what, too? Some of the people grew up watching The Simpsons with their dream job to be a writer, and now they're old enough to do it, but they're not good enough. So
and they still don't do it.
There's those people too, but they get to talk to you on the phone at least. So obviously, the talent that has come through that show is just insane. Michael Jackson, obviously you mentioned Mr. Bergstrom, Dustin Hoffman. I wanted to focus more specifically on comedy, though. Was there any moment where you just went like Sam Simon, James L. Brooks? I mean, these are Mount Rushmore people in comedy history. Do you have any stories you remember from these people?
I obviously knew who James L. Brooks was when I got hired, and his history is I mean, look, I don't even know how many Oscars he has and how many Emmys. He must have a whole trophy room just for that stuff. And people like that, I find, carry themselves differently than us mere mortals. Mm-hmm. And so I remember being really intimidated by him for many years, and even now I feel like I sit up a little straighter whenever I see him, and Matt Groening the same, and you just sort of, I have to say, every time I drive onto the 20th Century Fox lot, which is where we record The Simpsons, they have these great murals on the side of a lot of the sound stages, and actually one of them is a Simpsons mural. So it's the family and a bunch of the other characters and Santa's Little Helper. It's fantastic. And then on another one, it's John Huston doing High Noon. And then another one is Marilyn Monroe, and then another one is Young Frankenstein. And you just drive onto that lot and know that Marilyn Monroe walked these streets, and Shirley Temple, and it's never lost on me how lucky I am, because I have such a love for old movies and things like that, and to be able to work with somebody like James L. Brooks or a mastermind like Matt Selman and Matt Groening, and you just go, fuck, dude, what did I do to fall into this honeypot? This is incredible.
I love this woman. Oh, my God.
I want to talk about your podcast. We'll do that in 1 second, because that's a really exciting project you have going on in its third season as well. I just, when you mentioned the different guests on The Simpsons, was there sort of a cheesy question? Because I actually hate when people ask me who was the favorite guest I've ever interviewed and stuff, because there's so many. But it is a cheesy question.
We know it's me.
Is there? That's why I keep having Glenn back. Is there, like, at least not favorite, but like a most memorable, someone you got to work or play scenes with?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly remember the day that Lady Gaga came and recorded with us. Wow. That was a real, like, wow, what? I mean, she was terrific and so game, and she stood next to me, and she couldn't have been lovelier or more gracious, and she was wearing this really sexy pantsuit, which I thought was hilarious, because, I mean, she could have literally gone on the red carpet, and here she was with us, a bunch of us, in this recording room on the 20th Century Fox lot. That was a pretty extraordinary day. Eric Idle has been on the show a number of times, as speaking of comedy. That guy is so fucking funny, and he is so game, and such great ad-libs. Ricky Gervais came, and he wrote an episode. He also had a song in his episode, and he sang it for us there live. That was amazing. It just never gets old. I met Ludacris, the rapper. That was amazing, and he was wearing this really long string of huge diamonds, and they were real. And I'm like, I need that. I need to take that from you. And he didn't allow that.
You're I know you only have a few minutes. Your genuine, authentic sort of, inspirational story here is it's you feel it. You feel how grateful you are for it, and I love that. I love that with success and stories of success where people, you can tell they're you feel blessed, I'm sure, and that comes. There's no pretension to you, so it's nice. Lisa Simpson's character, that it's true to you. It feels like, which is really honest and really cool. The one problem with Lisa Simpson's character, and maybe the only flaw that she has, and it sort of relates to your to your podcast, Small Town Dicks, is that didn't Lisa predict Donald Trump's presidency?
Yes, but the good thing of that, well, I can't say that. Yes, she did. Well, the Simpsons predicted Donald Trump would be president. And the funny story about that was the first time, I guess, he expressed that he might want to run for president. And when they were writing that script, the writer was like, what's the dumbest idea for a president we could possibly come up with? And it was Donald Trump. And here we are, people. Here we are.
Wait, what is it you can't say?
I can't say that Lisa Simpson, Donald Trump dies in that episode, and Lisa Simpson becomes president.
That's right.
Right. So, it's just a cartoon, people. I don't want the FBI showing up at my door.
You got nothing to worry about. If Lisa didn't just turn 8 every year and was 38, could you see her being the president, actually?
Absolutely. And she'd be a great president because Lisa Simpson I think she's genuinely interested in all sides of a story or an issue or an argument. I think she is genuinely compassionate. I think that she apologizes when she's wrong, and she accepts her flaws and tries to learn from them. She's the best part of all of us, I feel.
She got my vote. I mean, I'm a Canadian, but maybe that's what we need to do in this, idiocracy type of country you guys are in. Maybe Lisa Simpson should be on the next ballot.
There was a Twitter hashtag going around. Originally, it was Lisa Simpson for president. Then it was Yeardley Smith for president. I'm like, no. You don't want me. You really, really do want Lisa Simpson with the brain trust of 26 writers behind her. You definitely don't want me.
I feel like that's a great spin-off one day to The Simpsons, though. An older Lisa Simpson as president taking down Donald Trump.
100%. I love it.
Tell us about Small Town Dicks. For those who don't know, it is a podcast. It's in its 3rd year, and you like to expose things.
Yes. So it's actually in its 3rd season, and we're only barely a year old. Our first season, we did 14 episodes, and we released them once a week, and then we took about a 3-month break. Then we did season 2, and that was about 13 episodes, I think. So now we're 4 or 5 episodes into season 3, and I've always really been fascinated by true crime, and I honestly think it has to do with the fact that I was a really good kid. I was a rule follower, and I hated to get in trouble. I hated conflict, and I'm sort of still fascinated by people who don't value the things that most of the rest of us value in order for society to function well. For instance, trust. People who don't consider that a really sacred commodity. So if you're the person who is willing to do anything from play hooky or, murder your girlfriend, I just don't, who are you? And that really is where my fascination began. I also have what I often refer to as my kindergarten view of the world, where I really want the good guys to win. I just want it to be like that. And I want it to be a straight line from infraction to good guys come in to catch the bad guy, and this situation is resolved and the threat has gone. And it's so childlike. But I think that now, particularly in this day and age, and maybe partly because a lot of the movies that are released, we have all the Marvel and DC comic things, it's all about heroes, right? And everybody loves a hero. And even if it's an anti-hero, you would still consider them a hero. And in our country, also, as a third sort of element, there's a national conversation going on about bad cops. And while we didn't start the podcast to shine a light on the really excellent and exceptional work that's going on in law enforcement around the country, it has turned out to be a really wonderful, cathartic antidote to that also very valid conversation. So I co-host it with my best friend, Zibby Allen, who actually lives in Vancouver. And detectives Dan and Dave, who are identical twin detectives, and all of our cases on the podcast are told by the detective who investigated it. So Dan and Dave often tell about 4 stories per season, and then we have a lot of guests on from other small towns in the United States. We file FOIAs, which are Freedom of Information Act forms for 911 calls and suspect interviews, and we really want to do it right. We also change all the names and locations to protect the victims. Sometimes we even change the relationships so that you can further obscure who they are in order to protect them, particularly if they're children. And we're really proud of it. It's as opposed to some podcasts about crime are much more free form. We are pretty polished, and Zibby and I hardly do any of the talking. We really are the audience who gets to ask all the questions that you would ask if you had the opportunity or the guts to do so.
Sounds like a lot more prep than the Todd Shapiro show, I'll tell you that.
It's so much editing, but we, and mostly because we're dealing with people who aren't professional storytellers, so we never change the story that they're telling us. We just, sometimes they put the beginning at the end or vice versa, and we have what we call the vacuum. We have editors who try to suck up at least some of the ums, because if you're only listening to someone, as you know, if you're not sitting across from them and you can't get their body language or their energy, it's just a very different experience. So we just wanted it to be as clean as possible. And also for the case to be the star, we're not the star.
Alex Wood just committed a crime to get on there so he could meet you.
It's not that hard, Alex.
Sorry,
really.
I didn't hear what you said. I just texted my girlfriend that it's over. What was going on?
Yeardley, that's what an amazing, great success story from The Simpsons to this, and a plethora of other work that you've done throughout the way as well. Alex is super fan, so I'm just gonna thank you quickly while Glenn Foster's here. But I'm gonna let Alex Wood have the final say here with you, because I know you're in a rush to go. You're doing your junket. You're doing a ton of sort of promotion for everything that you're doing.
Don't say that. I'm so happy to be here, and I am. It's just a tremendous honor that you would have me, and so we should take all the time that we need, and I'm very grateful. Thank you.
I didn't know, because I didn't know they were sort of saying 5 o'clock, but I just think it's an amazing story, and as a Simpsons fan forever as well, I'm the one who's very honored. But Alex Wood, please, you take it away, my friend.
Thanks so much.
Don't fuck it up, Alex. Don't fuck it up.
Okay. I won't fuck it up. So anyways, Lisa, I wanted to ask, damn it!
Damn it!
No, but you mentioned the Mr. Bergstrom episode, and I did wanted to ask one thing about it, because I heard Sam Simon on Mark Maron's podcast talk about there was a moment when everyone was writing the episode of, we know Mr. Bergstrom should hand a note to Lisa at the end of the episode that lets her know that the world isn't that bad and everything will be okay. And they didn't know what to write on the note. And that the writer's room sent it upstairs to Sam Simon's office, and he took a lunch break and wrote this beautiful, philosophical, all-time great quote. My friend handed me a note before I moved to Toronto to chase my dreams of stand-up comedy that said, "You are Alex Wood," inspired by the "You are Lisa Simpson" note. Was that a touchstone moment for you too? Were you waiting on the line? You knew about it. What's your version of that story, if that's okay?
Yeah, it's actually really a sort of a funny story. So I remember reading that script and reading that the note said, "You are Lisa Simpson," and thinking, really? That's all you're going to give her? Fuck you. How is she supposed to get by on just that? I 100% didn't get it. That the message is, of course, everything you need, you already have inside of you. And I'm not even kidding that it was probably a good, 20 years before I went, oh my God, that is so brilliant. Now I get it. I was so mad. I was so hot in the moment when I thought, I can't believe you just hung her out to dry like that. I mean, and I just think, really, Yeardley, you are really not that smart. I completely missed the point. And then when I got it, I just really felt like an ass.
I'm kind of getting chills here, though, in a way, and not to get too deep or philosophical, but like and not to put you down either, Yeardley, but a young lady might actually, like, at 8 years old, that actually might be a real honest reaction. Where it took many years beyond that to get it. So it's kind of cool if you think about it that way.
I think you're actually, and she reads it and she feels better. But I remember being in that, they flew me to New York with James L. Brooks to go record with Dustin Hoffman for that episode. And that was a huge, huge day also. And, you know, because Dustin Hoffman, I mean, he's just a big deal. And there I am in this room with Jim Brooks and Dustin Hoffman. And again, I'm thinking, what am I, this is my life? It's too good to be true. And I remember when we got to that scene, and I read the note, and I didn't feel better. And when we were doing the scene where she's running along the train and she's sobbing, I was actually literally sobbing in that recording session. And then you get to the moment, he hands her the note, and I stopped crying, but I remember it took me a while because the note didn't work the way it was supposed to. And so I think that's why I felt like Lisa Simpson had been cheated, because I thought it didn't work on me. And I feel as connected to Lisa Simpson as I've ever felt to anyone. Like, she really feels like a real person to me. She lives so successfully outside of me because I really am only 1/3 of that magical creation. The writers start with the words, then the actors interpret that, and then the animators take our recording and draw to that. And so I can't claim Lisa Simpson as solely my own. She really is this wonderful package of all of these incredible elements that came together like lightning in a bottle.
I mean,
I've stunned you into silence.
And then something much more childish would be my last. This isn't even a question; it's more of a request. Would you drop one of your favorite Lisa quotes on us, maybe?
Sure. I am the lizard queen.
The exact one I was told.
Or when one of my favorite things is when Lisa Simpson is really, really dry. She says things like, "I'll be in my room. I'll be in my room."
Dad,
and you just
I would
see
like
her
to buy
with that
your
sort
rock.
of half-lidded gaze that she gets when she's like, "You all are just, I can't even." I love her so much.
That's actually very appropriate for this program. I can't thank you enough, Yeardley Smith, The Simpsons in its 30th season, and Small Town Dicks, your podcast of 1 year, but 3 seasons as you've sort of structured it. Make sure you go and check that out. Over 1 million downloads, growing rapidly, and very educational and kind of, definitely intriguing. So I hope people go and check iTunes, obviously. That's where people can find that.
iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, everywhere you like to listen, you can find it. And I have to just want to give a shout out to the fans of Small Town Dicks. They are the most phenomenal, active community. One of the fans started a discussion group that's really lively. We have over 800 5-star reviews. Like, that doesn't happen without word of mouth. And because we are a micro team and we have a small budget, we do a big job, but they are phenomenal. The best. As you know, the fans are everything.
100%. And congrats again. It sounds like another great passion project and you giving back and another inspirational thing you're doing. So thank you, Yeardley. Really, this was a wonderful, wonderful time, and we are very grateful for the time that you gave us for it.
You're wonderful.
I know.
I'm so happy. I love you.
Okay. Cheers.
Bye.
Okay, bye-bye. Yeardley Smith, everyone. From The Simpsons, Lisa Simpson.
That was cool.
That was cool, eh?
Yeah.
Alex, how you doing?
What? Oh, yeah. I know you want my instant reaction. I'm on somewhere else right now.
Do it to change your neighbor.
The Todd Shapiro Show.
You are the greatest hero in American history.
SiriusXM Canada Laughs Channel 168.